Oh, we're going to call to order. Do you want to do that first or pledge? Well, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mr. Agadello.
Here.
Mr. Denise?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here.
Mr. Sims?
Here.
Thank you.
Any announcements? Don't have any announcements to make, or
There were just two. I know Mr. Renzi and Ms. Webster are excused from tonight's meeting.
okay. All right, agenda modifications and additions. Are there any from the minutes from the last meeting? Does anyone have anything that they want to discuss, change from the last meeting?
Yep.
Then we need to vote on second.
Okay. If there's no additions or changes, I would vote that the minutes would be accepted as written.
Second that.
Okay, then we're right on to unfinished business. If you can give us an update on the lighting systems?
Yes, thank you. So just wanted to give an update. Lightning system, it was discussed at the last meeting to look into a lightning detection, lightning prediction system. And I had mentioned that I had a history with ThorGuard. It's a lightning prediction system. It doesn't detect lightning strikes. It predicts it in the atmosphere, whether there's the chance of lightning to strike within the area. And so I reached out to them and had their local rep come and meet me at Barber Street. That's the first location that we looked at. And I wanted him to come to the site to tell me whether or not he felt like we needed more than one horn. I knew we would need a second light cluster, which is just a flashing light that lets you know when the detector is activated. And when we were out there, we did a test with the horn system, and we felt that it was necessary to have two horns at the location, just due to the distance that the buildings are apart. And from the farthest baseball field to the farthest south football field is a pretty good distance, and you're covering across the roadway, and you've got a lot of traffic on Barber Street. So we felt it was best to go that route. So I asked him to provide me a quote, and so we could just have a roundabout number to throw around. And I think I might have quoted a price I thought at the last meeting, but this price came back, substantially higher than what I even thought it would be. So it came back at $21,165 for the lightning system at Barber Street. Now, obviously, this is something that we do not have budgeted. I do want to get just the legal opinion from the city's attorney before we were to ever go forward with this. So that's something, right now we're in a point, our current attorney is resigning at a certain point once they fill the position. So once we get a new attorney on board, I'll have the discussion with them, or if the existing attorney is around, then I'll have the discussion with him as well, just to get a legal opinion on lighting system here within the city of Sebastian. I know they're in other areas, but I want the city's opinion from our attorney. And then it's something, if we want to go forward with it, we could look at budgeting it for next year, or we could also go to the Little League and football programs. They've been more than willing since I've been here, and I think from previous years, to help out with large scale projects if they have any additional funds that they get from some of the charitable organizations within the area. So those are kind of two options. We can look to budget for it next fiscal year, or we can have that discussion with them and see which way they want to go.
So did you say if it would be used if it detects that there could be lightning?
So the ThorGuard system, I'm pretty sure it's one of a kind within the lightning industry. It predicts lightning. So I know there's some others out there. There's WeatherBug, and there's different ones you can go to that are cheaper. They detect lightning. So if the first lightning out of a storm happens to hit at Barber Street Athletic Complex, which we hope would never happen, it's going to detect the first strike that hit at that location. So that's, the prediction aspect of it. What it does is it reads the electrostatic charge within a designated area around the park. And there are times, from my history, I've seen it, there will be blue skies and a lightning detector goes off. But we all know that lightning can strike at pretty much any time. There doesn't have to be an active storm at that location. So that is a little bit of complaint that you get from the ThorGuard system is, oh, well, it's a beautiful day, or the storm had moved past and it was, still wouldn't give us the all clear. Well, it's not gonna give the all clear until there's no chance for lightning in the area.
And then where do they mount the horns? On the building then?
So when we looked at it, our discussion was we would house the main unit at the football fields, and at that site, the housing of the unit would go in the second floor upstairs, football room that's upstairs. And then on top of that building, you would have a light, a strobe light, and or a flashing light, and then a cluster of horns that would go in all directions around. And then at the baseball complex on the roof of that building, we would mount the flashing light and a horn cluster as well at that site. So they would remotely communicate to each other. So when the horn, when it activates at the football facility, it would also activate at the baseball facility.
The question, is this the same unit that's used at the high school?
I'm not sure what Sebastian River High School has, but I'll look into that.
Okay, because usually the more complaint than not having the lightning, because it usually does come after it goes off, but the complaint usually is that it doesn't give you this time to go back on for quite a while. But I personally think that that's a necessity, because you could get it. I remember seeing an incident where it went off at the high school, and I didn't let kids get out of their cars to go. And that same time, not far from there at the county, teacher got killed, a lightning hit her. So I'd rather have something that goes off before than after. I know the golfers complain about that too, but we could have been hitting the ball. But when you see a tree get hit, I've had an incident where they were complaining, I took everybody off, and then while inside a tree got struck, and before our tournament was over in a week, that tree was ruined. So they forgave me after that.
Yeah, I'll look into. I'll reach out to Sebastian High School and see what unit they have there.
Yeah, because I didn't quite understand what Mr. Dan was saying, but I know, before I go there, the actual detector that's at the North County pool, or the ones that the county has, those are Thor's, or you're not too familiar with those?
I'll check with the county as well. I haven't spoken to them to see what they have as well.
But there is one located at the North County pool. Oh, you have no idea?
Yes.
So, and I'm pretty sure that, and it's customary, like he said, it doesn't detect lightning, but it kind of predicts when a lightning because of the actual vibes in the air. I didn't say the right word, but but no, it's customary that normally when it first goes off, it goes off in, I think, in a series of threes it goes off in, and it goes off in a series of threes. It's supposed to now don't quote me on this now, because I just been around a lot of them. When it goes off, it doesn't give the all clear signal until if lightning strikes again, it waits 30 minutes. You have to wait 30 minutes before, normally before the all clear signal comes. But if it's not, if any other detection happened within the 30 minutes, it starts all over again. Wow. So that's why you say you may not be able to get an all clear right away, because you may not see no lightning. But if it goes off within that 30 minutes, the count starts all over again. With that. Right.
Usually that's the complaint, at the amount of time. And the other thing that you'll see happen is when working properly, it gives you advance notice. So you might have a minute or so, and sometimes the kids get used to that at the high school, and you have to rush, okay, let's go. And they're going, well, we got about 2 minutes before we're gonna see electricity. There's no guarantee you're gonna get 2 minutes. It'll go off before.
Yes.
But it could go off 10 seconds before, or it might take 2 minutes.
Does this group think this is something we might want to look at for this next year? If we get more information, prices, is this something we'd be interested in checking out then?
most definitely, just that I look at the actual time frame. Like, again, once, I mean, by the time, it's just say if they do approve it, if it is approved, it won't be approved more than likely until after the main, because the main season starts. So I guess, I mean, I'm all for it, but I guess that's how things goes. I mean, there's a waiting process, but I was just hoping something that we could have done like prior to the start of like, I mean, as late as August, because we know like lightning do,
But we have
we
to
do
have it
know
in the
the budget.
budget.
Yes,
The
I
budget,
understand that.
right?
Yes.
And you wanted to talk to the attorney also.
Yeah, I do want to speak to the attorney. I'll try to get that done soon after the holidays, and have that discussion, and then we can go forward with getting some price quotes and determine what our plan is going forward, whether we, look and, like, as I said, speaking with Little League and the football program, because they are, the main benefactors, and we did the scoreboards and a lot of that stuff is completed. So we can have that discussion with them if we want to look at doing it sooner and see, what we have left in our parks restoration or the parks budget that the committee has as well. So we can look into all those numbers.
Okay, because like that would be considered as a new addition too. So by that being so, then would it come from all the parks, not just like would it come from all the parks? I mean, not all the parks, but all the zones. So by it being something new, it'd come from all the zones.
That's correct. If it was at Barber Street, since it is a community park, it would come from all 4 zones.
Yes, which if the money is there, it could possibly be purchased before budget time, if the money is there, or you still have to be on a budget item.
Yeah, so it still has to be a budgetary item. I mean, we do have in the budget $20,000 for this committee. We have started to spend a little bit of that money. We're going to spend some at the batting cages and within those funds. So it'll just be something where we have to look and see how much exactly it's going to cost and whether or not we get any assistance from the youth organizations and what the final cost would be to the city, whether we have the funds within this fiscal year to complete that project.
Okay.
But I'll like I said, I'll speak to the attorney after the first of the year, after we get through the holidays, and then I'll bring it back to you all in the January meeting. We'll have a more of a discussion on it.
Okay.
Now that I know that you do want to definitely move forward on this.
Yes, because I'm surprised like the city doesn't have one at
Can
all.
I make a suggestion too with your conversation with the attorney? If all the participating parks aren't covered, if the tennis courts aren't covered and other things, I'd suggest that we come up with some kind of signage to remind the people, because my understanding is we are still, as a city, liable, in today's sue-happy society, unfortunately. It's never my fault, it's somebody else's fault. So, it's going to be the city's fault. So I think that should be included in your discussion to find out, because if we can't get budgeted for the whole thing, I think we're going to need some budgeted for some signs made up too, and he would or she would know, the verbiage on that.
Mr. Benton, my last question is, and currently, do you know what they have now out there, meaning the football group or basketball group, what they have now for the lightning detection, if they have anything at all?
I know in the past, we haven't purchased one this year or since I've been here in my first year here. In the past, I heard they had handheld units that they were using, but I'm not sure what they used this past year. They did not request the city to purchase one.
Okay, because I know the football group at one time did have a handheld, but I don't know if I'm pretty sure they still have it now.
Okay, so this is something then we can pursue and keep checking into then. Thank you. The batting cage project?
Yes, so staff this week we're working to remove the flooring that's within the batting cages. I know that's been a concern. We've discussed it numerous times. I got approval from Little League. They were at one point going to remove it themselves. They were having some issues with getting the resources to remove the surface they had placed in there. So we've got city staff is removing that surface this week. They started on it a little bit today, and they're just, as soon as they can get to it, they're going to remove the surface. And then kind of moving forward with our batting cage project with renovating the batting cages and formulating a new plan. I've got a price quote for the fencing to go up to do the protection of the netting area. That price came back somewhere in the ballpark of $6,000. So, and then, you know, as I said at the last meeting, the batting cage netting is going to be around $2,000. So we should be right there at the $8,000 mark that we had discussed. This is a project that we're starting to move forward on once we can get the fencing in there, and then we'll remove the existing fencing. What I'll also do is I've got some pictures of existing batting cages that I've utilized that I'm going to send out to all the committee members, because I know Ms. Webster was asking some questions about the netting. So I'm going to send out some pictures on what I foresee us putting in, and then that way you all will know, and then hopefully we can get this completed before the spring Little League season.
Any questions? Anyone on the committee?
Actually, I was curious about what's going to be the new flooring in the cages now that the current's going to be removed.
So as of this time, it's going to remain concrete. I have spoken with the Little League program. They are looking into purchasing a turf system that we could put in there that's a little bit thicker, and it would give some cushion. They also would have to purchase home plate mats and do a couple things like that. But that's the plan right now, is the Little League program. Last I'd heard, where they were looking into a flooring that's adequate for the batting cages. The flooring they got before was kind of gymnastics mats. They're not really for outdoor usage, and they didn't anchor them down in any way. So that'll be something that we'll work together on, and that'll be, they had discussed looking into the turf surface.
Yeah, because the high school, I know, the cages that we use there, they have like sort of a football turf. It's like a low-grade turf, but it gets the job done as long as the balls aren't getting all roughed up by the concrete. So I know, and they have concrete right under it, so it wouldn't be an issue of removing it at all. It's a pretty reasonable idea. And I was wondering about there was some sprinklers that I saw that stayed up during the day at Barber Street. So I'm not sure if that has to do with like the field maintenance or what, but it presented like a safety hazard that I wanted to bring up.
Yep, I'll have them take a look at it tomorrow.
Any more questions? Okay, is there anybody in the public that would like to speak? All right, see no one there to do that. Any new business?
I have none.
Okay, so now we're ready for some updates on all the stuff you've been working on, because I know there's a lot going on.
So I'm happy to announce that we completed the shade structure project at the dog park. That was something that had been requested prior to even my arrival, and it was a project that was budgeted for the last fiscal year. We installed 2 concrete pads, one in a small dog park, one in the large dog area. And then as of, I believe it was December 3rd, December 4th, it rolled over to 2 days. The shade structures were installed. Carolina Carports was the manufacturer. They came in and installed both shade structures, and we also purchased 4 new picnic tables. We put 2 in each, under each structure as well. So I've been out there quite a bit. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the users of the park. I've yet to hear anything negative, but I'll continue to go out there and receive feedback, and if there's anything we need to update with those, we can look into that.
What was the cost on those, putting those in?
So the shade structures themselves was a little bit less than $10,000, around $9,500, if I remember correctly. And the concrete slabs that the structures go on was around the $6,000, $7,000 mark. So I think it was around a total complete project, including the picnic tables, was around $17,000.
So we're pretty much, that park is set. I don't think there is anything else we need to do in there. We've done quite a bit. It's a nice dog park. So,
yeah, that's correct. I mean, we also replaced some of the sod around those, because when we started to form up the slabs, we needed to replace some of the sod. So we replaced some sod in the area. And I think as of right now, we're pretty good at the dog park, and that project is now complete.
thank you.
Moving on, park signage. City Council approved staff's recommendation to go with West Central Signs, Inc. They do business as SignStar. So they're going to develop and install our park signage. We did a design. We had a consultant come up with a design. We'll kind of worked through and polished that design with this company to make sure that, we get the signs exactly how we want them to be done. On the dais, you all have some samples of the poles and then also a sample of the sign. Just to go in a little bit of detail, these were samples, the process we went through, we received bids, and then the selection committee, we narrowed it down to 2 firms to come in and do a presentation for us. So after they had a couple weeks to develop samples, which the winning bidder that we decided to go with, you see their samples in front of you. But they provided samples. They came up with a design that is an aluminum pole that has an epoxy on it, and then they can manage that and make it look like real wood. The epoxy does have a lifetime warranty, and the coloring in the epoxy is mixed all the way completely through, so if it gets scratched, then the color will still show. And that was one of the determining factors within the committee were the poles and the signs from this manufacturer kind of captured exactly what we were looking to get with the wooden poles that weren't wood that were going to go away, that these poles should last us a while. And this signage will, kind of complement us throughout the city and make us the signage throughout the city look the same at all of our parks.
So this would be the sign background?
That's correct,
All right,
yes.
and it's metal, aluminum, what is this?
Yes, ma'am, it's metal.
Metal, all right. So the logo, the Sebastian logo of the Pelican, is it all painted on, the wording and the logo itself?
So in front of you also, I did put on the dais samples of or printed off copies of the park signage. On page 14, you have the entryway, gateway signs that go on County Road 512, US 1, and then also over in the Barber Schumann area. The Riverview Park sign is an example of the sign that would have a marquee. And then on page 15, you have the park signage that's listed under gateway. That would be the park signage that goes in all the rest of our parks that don't have a marquee. So what we'll do with this is the logo and everything will be raised off of that surface a little bit. From my understanding from the contractor, the lettering will be metal, so it's raised up a little bit of metal, and then the logo will have a raised metal, and then it'll be like a 3M logo that goes on top of the metal, so it'll all kind of be in 3D format, so it comes out from the sign.
So we're looking at these styles then to be used around Sebastian?
Yes, ma'am. So City Council approved the signage back in, I want to say it was sometime the end of the summer, beginning of the fall, and they approved to go forward with this signage, and it'll be the theme throughout the city.
So does this mean when I'm driving on 512 and I see 5 or 6 signs, dog park, this, we can get rid of those and do something in this way?
Yeah, so what we'll do in the future, so just to be clear, this first phase in regards to our parks is strictly going to be park signage, just identifying every park that we have, just to bring them into uniformity across the city. Some of our parks don't have signage. Some of them have signage that's been there a while and it looks really bad. So that's kind of our first phase for all of our parks. Then as we progress, starting to change over some of the other signage within the parks, and then also, as Ms. White mentioned, along 512, some of the ones like to say dog park and stuff like that, we can start to change over to these directional signage as well to get those. I know some of the signage here that you see, large vehicular signage and small vehicular signage, the plan was initially we're going to look to do those down on US 1 and Indian River Drive corridor to identify some of the local destinations. But that also is kind of in a phase that's down the road a little bit. Our big push to begin with is the gateway signage and park signage to begin with.
So what are we looking at cost for like one park sign about? If we go with this material and the posts? I think it'll look really good.
I'm curious though about
Yes, and I think you were kind of, was the city council kind of looking at the multicolored one?
So kind of the gray pole is more than likely that they were looking at the gray pole with the black on it. And we're going to work through all that stuff with the designer. Obviously, what council approved is what we have to go with, but we will be able to polish it and make sure it captures exactly what we were trying to go with. You know, we have concerns about the rope look. I really like the rope look, but how long is it going to stand up is going to be a concern with that to begin with. It may be something that we do along the riverfront that we know that we have to replace the rope every so often, but that'll be one of the concerns.
Yeah, I thought from a distance this was more of, since the wood is kind of just like a synthetic type thing, I thought the rope could have been like a metal tube but still made to look like rope. Because that, I mean, that's more representative of Sebastian than anything else. But yeah, you're right about the rope. It's gonna
And I can have that discussion with them. I can see if there is any design that has more of a rope look that they could do with the metal framing. I'll have that discussion with them.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
wearing down is...
And just back to Ms. White's comments about the pricing, just throwing out a couple of the signs. Easy Street Park, the sign is $6,500 for the sign. Same thing with some of the gateway signage, which is US 1 County Road 512, are pretty much the same price. And then once we get into Fisherman's Landing was around $8,700, and Main Street or City Hall Marquee $7,000. So we're in the $6,000 to $7,000 range for majority of these signs, and their total price came in at $229,000. And please remember, all of that isn't just budgeted through parks or leisure services. There is some CRA money that's going to help with some of the parks, Fisherman's Landing, Riverview Park down on the rivers in the CRA district. That'll help in those areas.
What about the signs here in front of City Hall? That comes out of parks?
Yes, so they are all budgeted to be replaced within the 3-year phase that we're going to go
But it's out
forward
of the
with.
parks budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the size of the signs, are they going to be pretty close to what's out there now?
Yeah, so majority of them, they're going to be in the 6 to 8 foot height range. And then as far as, widths, we're looking somewhere around a 5 foot wide for that signage. The one thing, with the marquee signage, some of the marquees, we get a lot of complaints that they're hard to read. They're so small. So we did try to make the fonts a little bit bigger on these, but it will limit us to the number of lines that we have. And that's mandated by DOT standards with the marquees, the number of lines we can have, and then also if we go with a larger font, that's less letters we can get on them. So we will have to condense some of our messages at times.
Now, when the marquee out here in front of City Hall for meetings being posted, are those individual letters that are slid on the, do you know that?
Yes, ma'am.
Because there is, if you're going to have a city council meeting, every time you have one, you can actually have one whole plastic with the letters already on it, would say City Council tonight, 6 p.m., and you just slide it in. It's not an individual every time. You can have those pre-made.
Okay, I'll discuss that. Our Public Facilities Department handles installing all the letters on the signage. So I'll have that discussion with them and give them that
I think
idea.
this looks good. I don't know, anyone else have some questions? Or I'm kind of excited to see something that looks it looks very,
I think it
Wow,
looks
it's
good
very nice
too.
and
My
rich.
only, and I don't think we have anything to say, would be city council. But being we're spending all this money now, it seems like after all these years, 30-some years ago, I didn't mind it because I didn't look that old. But now that I'm in that older group, to have 6 old grouches in our, can we at least put 6 dead old grouches? I mean,
No.
we're a loving community. We don't need to be any grouches, and I don't want anybody to mistakenly think I'm one of them.
but I think it's a good, people ask then, who is
Who
that, or
was-
what
yeah,
is
who
that?
is it?
Send
They're
them-
dead. They're
No,
dead.
you don't say that, say, go find out. Go find out. I think it's a good conversation piece.
Oh, well.
Okay, and continuing on to the next project, the baseball field project, we're working with fence companies to come up with pricing that works within our budget. We identified a budgetary number back in March, April, when we started the whole budget process. I went out and got quotes to do this from a company that is no longer in business now. So needless to say, the pricing that I'm getting from other companies is substantially higher on defense replacement than I had budgeted. So we're still going to start moving forward with the process. It's just going to have to be phased out a little differently because basically the pricing we have, we're going to go from being able to do 2 fields to just 1 more than likely. But then we'll be able to have that money, and complete the project next year. Just realizing that budget has to go up based on the numbers that we have now. So that's kind of gives you a little idea of how I, when I did the budget, I went out and actively got quotes on exactly what we needed. But as I said, unfortunately, the company is no longer in business that we got a quote from, and the others are higher. And then also, the dugout portion of this project has, it's going to be a summertime project, so we'll get that complete over the summer. We'll start to get a design working after the holidays and bring that forward to you all as well. The last baseball scoreboard has arrived. It will be installed hopefully this week or next week's, this week. If not, it'll be the week after Christmas that it gets installed. They have removed the old scoreboard. They have the new one bracketed, ready to go. It's just a matter of getting it put up, and hopefully that gets done in the next couple of days. So then that would complete all of our scoreboards at Barber Street will have been replaced within the last year. That's all for baseball and also the football scoreboard. Moving on to pickleball. I know that's a big one, and everybody's anxious to get that project completed and get it open. Just to give you all an update on exactly what's taking place at the site right now. Hopefully tomorrow the water meter from the county gets installed, and we can have the plumber out there to hook up to the water, and we'll get water to the facility in regards to the restroom facility. Same thing, electricians should be on site later this week to start pulling the wiring, getting everything installed with that. Next Monday, the 23rd, FPL is planning to come and open a transformer for us. Hopefully we can get that installed and possibly energize the restroom next Monday. If not, that may be pushed to the following week, just depending on how the inspections and everything go with the electrical. If you happen to ride by there today, you'll see a little bit of demo work that was being done today. The entryway to the parking lot, we did have a portion of that sidewalk and entryway removed today. It will be re-poured tomorrow. The same thing in front of the restroom building, we had a portion of the sidewalk removed. That also will be poured again tomorrow. The plan is Thursday to do a 1-inch overlay of the entire parking lot. We just had some concerns of the existing parking lot that was laid down. So we worked with the contractor, and we're going to install an additional 1-inch overlay on top of that. So once we get those things done this week, then we'll determine the final grading from the contractor. As soon as we get substantial grading done, then we'll have landscaping installed, and we'll announce a date to open the facility. So we're getting close. I don't want to throw. In the past, I've thrown dates out there, and we just haven't hit our mark. So, but I say we're getting close. I was speaking to the contractor today. The surfacing on the courts, they were applying the acrylic resurfacer today. They did 1 coat today. They'll do a 2nd coat tomorrow, and we should start to see some color by the end of the week, as long as the weather holds up tomorrow, and we can continue to stay on the path that we could have the courts colored as early as the end of this week. So that would just show the project is advancing and we're moving along. Lighting, that's the next item, kind of a phase 2 portion of this project. We went out to bid once, we didn't get any bids. We went back out to bid, and we received 4 or 5 bids this last time. So we do have a meeting coming up this Friday with one of the contractors. We just want to have a few questions about just making sure they can meet the requirements that we have set forth with the lighting that will be coming on board, hopefully within the next 6 months, because the lead time. So what will happen is we'll eventually choose a contractor. Hopefully we get them to the first meeting in January before council to approve it. If not, it'll be the 2nd meeting in January. And once it gets approved by city council, we sign the contract with the contractor. And at that time, there's just a little bit of lead time of them ordering poles, lights, and getting everything, permitting and everything set in place. So that's why we look at about a 6-month time frame for the lighting to be installed, just because of lead times and stuff.
Can the courts be open before the lighting's put in?
Absolutely. We are going to open the courts without lighting, and then the lighting would just be installed in a later phase.
I can ask questions after if you have more.
You can go ahead and ask questions.
For the lighting then, is the volleyball down on the river, is that on a timer? I don't remember.
It is not.
It's just on all the time?
Well, not on all the time. It is on a timer, but it's not on a timer. It's on a timer that says it comes on at
Certain
when the sun sets to a certain time at night, every single night.
So on this one, are we going to do something like that, so that it's on a timer like that? Or, I don't know, do they do anything with sensors? If there's a motion, if somebody's walking through or they can do whatever, the lights would come on for a certain amount of time. I'm just wondering, how are they going to do the lighting there?
So our current plan for the lighting is to install token machines. So that the current plan is that if you want lights at the facility, you have to pay for them. We would sell tokens at the golf shop, and then you would come over and you'd have to obviously buy them before the golf shop closes. You come over and you'd insert your token. We're going to set up the 8 courts. We'll have 4 separate token machines where when you put your token in that you paid for, you'll light 2 of the courts.
So if they don't get to the golf course before the office closes, they can't buy tokens?
That's correct. We're not going to have a token machine on site.
So why would they have to pay and the volleyball doesn't have to? What about the tennis courts on Schumann? How are those done?
Tennis courts on Schumann, there's a portion of them that you go over and push a button to turn on, and there's a portion that are Musco control link that are set by a schedule in a computer system that they come on at a certain time and they go off at a certain time.
So why aren't we doing something like that for the pickleball? Why should it be different?
That's right. I agree with Joanne too.
Yep.
It's-
So in the discussions I've had, one of the things that within this project, we do have to pay rent to the airport every single year. Rent for this site is about $12,000 a year. And somehow we've got to look to recoup some of these costs that we're putting out. So it's not just the initial amount for the construction of this project. It's now going to be a $12,000 recurring expense plus lighting. So that $12,000 only covers the rent cost for this facility.
So we have to pay $12,000?
It's roughly $11,000, $12,000 in rent that we paid to the airport, and that's required by FAA.
And that every year?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm just thinking, could there have been something that was looked at beforehand so that the users would not have to be charged a fee? Because now, not to say something's going to happen in the future, but if you look at all the other entities that we have, no charges are being applied to it. Now we have a new entity, a facility, and now a charge is going to be assessed for a person who want to use something like that. So I'm looking at that I foresee, which I'm not trying to foresee anything, but I can kind of almost say that these chairs might be full in the coming once this is in place.
Yeah, and that's something that, like I said, I'll have a discussion with staff and we can look into it. That's kind of the direction, and from the get-go, that's the direction I've been given, is to look at, that. One other thing we're going to look at in the future, it's not going to be rolled out immediately, is the cost to rent the courts for lessons and tournaments and stuff like that. Just because, you're not going to come to the courts and do lessons and stuff free of charge, and you're making money on them. So that will be another potential money maker, bringing some money in to the city at some point. And we're going to limit the courts that can be rented. So I don't want anyone in the public to think we're going with another entity to run our courts. Our courts are going to remain open to the public. The reason we're not going to start the fee charging right away for the rental of courts is due to the fact that we want to see when the heaviest usage is by the public for free of charge. At the heaviest times, we're not going to rent courts because we want the public to be able to come out and enjoy the courts. So those are kind of things that we're looking at in order to recoup some of the costs. So that I'll have the discussion. I'll bring back the concerns regarding the charging for lights and and we can discuss it as we go forward.
Has someone within the city had an opportunity to be able to go to Schumann or wherever the pickleball is being utilized now to be able to see when is the heavy usage for it? Because I know at nighttime, I know a lot of the individuals do go there and congregate there at nighttime. So during the daytime, it may not be as many users because I guess the courts are being used by, I want to say tennis also. So by that being so, I think that would have given a great idea of how many people are utilizing the courts, or you probably wouldn't be able to project how many are going to use it, but I know once a new facility is it's going to be instilled or installed, it's going to be used heavily from what we've seen before that has come here. I'm just trying to see that. I think a true number possibly could have been gathered beforehand, and then we would have have an idea what is going to be incurred when these things are opened up, especially when now their fee may be attached to it. That may deter individuals from coming and wanting to use it now. It may be. I'm not saying it will be.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, the courts are free of usage during daytime hours for general public at any time. We're not going to charge the general public to use the courts at any time. The fees will come in if someone wants to come in and host a tournament, or if someone wants to actively give training lessons at the site. That's the only time that fees would be charged in the future. We're not going to have that fee structure set up immediately. That's going to be something that we work through the first few months. I'm going to work on it after the holidays to start getting a resolution together to go before City Council. So that'll be the plan for that. But it will be free of charge. There's no membership fee, no fees. There's no third party coming into the City of Sebastian to operate our courts for us. The city is going to operate our courts ourselves, and it's going to be free of charge to the public to come and use the courts during the daytime hours. Currently, the plan is at nighttime, we will have a token system to operate the lights, is the current plan.
And that's why, from my understanding, the Schumann Park courts, when they were used, heavy usage was at nighttime. So in the future, there will be a fee. If there will be a fee if there's no. Okay, I'm just saying, if you have citizens of Sebastian who's not affiliated with any rental group trying to teach anyone or trying to have lessons. So if I want to go there to utilize the actual pickleball court with my group of people, we have to purchase tokens if we can get there before the golf place closes to get tokens. So we can't go there. Then we have to wait probably a couple of days until we are able to find time to go there to get the tokens. So.
Well, I'll say this, that's at least a better option than a lot of the other parks have, like the baseball field, for example. Most nights, unless Little League is running out of the park that night, there's no access, tokens or otherwise. So just being able to even access the courts, it depends on the fee too, but just that being available at all is a plus from a lot of our other parks that we offer. So it's, like they said, the fee at night can scare some people away, but I still think it's a great option compared to what we have elsewhere.
That's true, but I'm all for it. I'm happy. I'm not trying to be advocate. I think Mr. Benton and the City of Sebastian and the staff has done a great job, so I'm not trying to say anything about that. I'm just I just heard what Ms. White said as far as about other part. I understand football, baseball, and whomever. Those are groups that have I think Musco has control over those lights at the football field. I know, and are they the same system at baseball field too?
Yes, sir. We have Musco at baseball, softball, and a portion of Schumann has Musco.
Yes, and then I understand again by the fees at the FAA control or whoever control those fees. So I understand that too. But I'm just looking at it's already built, it's already in place. So I guess we can't do anything now but to go forward. And I just
I'm surprised. I didn't realize that we were paying $12,000 a year.
Or,
Did you know that?
or that the individuals would be charged to utilize the lights. We didn't know anything about that also as well. So there's two things there that we was not aware of.
I will say the fee that we're being charged was included in our budget. We did budget for that fee for this fiscal year.
So it's budgeted.
Yes.
I'm just going to go in favor of saying that I would rather that we not have tokens, that it's left either like the other parks, either how Schumann does it or the volleyball courts or however else. I I would discourage having tokens, especially if someone's coming in and they want to play and they can't get tokens and they can't play and,
Yeah, I guess
you know, and I don't know. So that's my feeling on that. So that's how that's my.
And not only that, I mean, I feel as if it's no tokens is at no other park that we have. I mean, I can't say for certain. Are there tokens at any other areas that we have?
The golf course does use tokens for their range balls.
But as far as the golf course, it's like, I'm pretty sure it's been utilized a great deal, but as far as all the other entities that do have a license in our area, I'm pretty sure there's no tokens there as well. And so by this being a new entity, not just saying it's primarily because it's a new entity, I'm just saying that, like, because I don't remember anything coming before the board that stated that it was going to be fees fees occurred from a user out there, or that. No, I'm just saying I don't recall.
So, I mean, I'll just be clear. As I said, you know, we haven't developed the fee structure for the usage of the courts in regards to rentals.
Yes.
We haven't developed that resolution at all yet. That has not been, so it will come to you all before we go to city council with it. You all will see it more than likely at the January meeting, that we'll have the discussion in regards to fees that we charge for tournaments. It'll outline everything. So similar to if you come and you want to rent one of our facilities, if you want to rent Riverview Park or Yacht Club, Community Center, one of those items, if you want to rent a facility for a tournament, if you want to rent pickleball courts for the tournament, there'll be a fee associated with it. If you want to come out and rent the courts to give lessons, there'll be a fee associated with that. Other than that, there will be free usage, and I want to stress it because there have been some mentions through social media that we were going to allow a third party to come in and operate the courts for us. That will not happen. We are not going to have a membership fee. You can wake up 8 o'clock in the morning, go out to the pickleball courts and enjoy yourself with a fun, friendly game of pickleball within the city of Sebastian. That our goal, you know, these courts were paid for through our recreation impact fees and through the city, and so we're going to provide that opportunity to our residents to come out and enjoy the courts. So I just want to make sure that's clarified, that at no time are we looking for people to pay to play during the daytime hours. The current plan, and once again, your feedback is welcomed, and I'll have the discussion going forward in regards to the lighting, and I'll provide an update at the next meeting. But the current plan is to have token machines for the lighting at the pickleball complex.
Okay, now it's my last time. It's my last thing, but everything you said, I'm in agreement with it. Other than it was so again, if I want to use it at nighttime as a private person with me and 3 more people, we will have to pay tokens at nighttime.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's the only thing that you did not say. I mean, clearly you talked about the actual groups that's coming for lessons, or if someone want to rent it for that. But if a private person want to utilize it at nighttime, which I'm pretty sure the Schumann group is a real large group, and I don't know if they're a working group or whatever, but it's a large group, and they are citizens of Sebastian that may want to use it, or they will use it. And so I guess they have to make it to the golf course or the golf area before they close to get some tokens.
And as I said, I accept your feedback, and I'll have the discussion. We'll discuss it from a city staff standpoint, and I can provide you all with an update on what, how our discussion goes.
John?
I just have a question. That $12,000 a year, how many years are we committed for the city?
I have to go back and look at the contract. I'll let you all know that. I'll send out an email to you all to let you know. That's something that basically what it is that property is controlled by the airport, so we do have to pay a square footage or per acre fee to the airport. The same thing, the golf course and the areas there. That area is controlled by the FAA, and they do require that the businesses that are there using the airport have to pay rental fees.
Okay, and is there two other questions? Is there a percentage thing that if we don't meet this here, I mean, at one time, tennis in its heyday in the 60s, you couldn't build enough courts fast enough. As you know, I have a bias here, so that's why I didn't get involved with no discussions. And that's the danger of not doing, and I apologize, but I should have known that we were paying $12,000. I didn't know. And can that be renegotiated? And because I hate to think that our budget is going there. There is a purpose for that, well, I won't call it a sport, whatever it is, for pickleball, and there's people that's gonna use it for how long, but I hate to think that we're committed, and I would also hate to find out that price, our lease is going up after. I mean, do we have a way out of that lease if 2 years from now, and I think it'll be at least 2 years before it'll die, but do we have a way out?
Let me look into it, and I'll provide you all with that feedback.
terms of the
I don't know the
contract.
specifics of it, other than the amount. I do know when we had our discussion about the budget, because it was a new line item that went into it, we did have not a full discussion about it, but I know that it was one item that we pointed out that would be covering the rental cost for the pickleball facility.
I apologize, I should have been paying more attention. I wasn't on the board then, and I did have a bias, so I didn't want my bias to get away with in the way of your planning, but
So you
It's
want
no
to kind of
good.
know what's on the contract for lease, for the
yeah, I'd like
airport,
to
the
know what
length
our,
of it,
what our
how much we're
commitment, can
committed,
we?
are we locked in and it won't go up? So you want some
Yeah,
information
I'd
on
like
that?
to have some
Okay.
information
Do you
on
have
that.
any other questions on that? No? Anyone else?
I just think all those questions that
Yeah.
Mr. Danzy and Ms. White brought up, I think,
Okay.
are key, are good.
A question with pickle. Are the restrooms, do they lock at night? I've always wondered it.
Yes, so the restrooms will be automatic lock. We will have timers on those, and
Is
they
that
will
how the
automatic lock.
the dog park is too? The
Yes,
same
ma'am.
thing?
Most of all of our restrooms throughout the city do have automatic locks on them, with the exception, I think, the baseball field is the only one
And
that
how
doesn't.
many parking spaces are we going to get in that for pickleball? Do you know?
I want to say it's in the 20 to 25
Okay.
parking spaces will go within that parking lot.
Thank you. Anyone
The
else?
the last project or city staff update, well, actually two more. The first one is we do still have a one alternate board opening position. So if you know anyone that's interested in joining the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, please have them fill out an application and we can go through the process. If there's more than one, then City Council sometimes asks them to do an interview at the council meeting, but there is one alternate position available. And the last thing is at the November 20th City Council meeting, the City Council did impose a moratorium on spraying of herbicides and pesticides within our parks for 120 days. So if you start to hear information from your parks that you all are at, the athletic fields or any park within the city, we do currently have a moratorium. We cannot apply any herbicides, pesticides, anything within the parks. So that was put in effect November 20th for 120 days. Correct. So it would have been December, around March 20th. And then at that time, they can either decide to allow it or they can continue the moratorium at that time.
It'll
So-
be interesting to see what happens without that.
But I just wanted to make you all aware of it. So if you have questions when you're in the parks, or see things that you want to bring up, make me aware of it, and let me know if you have questions. With that, that's all of the updates I have. If you have any questions on any other projects or anything, feel free to ask them at any time.
Does anyone have questions?
Like, I'm in agreement with everything you said, other than the night charge, that's all. But your staff is doing a great job and yourself as well. So we're happy to have you aboard.
Yes. All right, so any committee member concerns then? You did your concern. Do you have anything that you want to bring up? Anything about your parks that you have any questions about? No?
Well, I have a question with our parks. If one of, do we have a regulation if one of somebody that comes to our parks sees fire ants or something, are they allowed to do anything on their own?
So my suggestion is if anyone has complaints about any fire ants or anything they see within our parks, please feel free to contact the city, and I'll let the city staff know, and that way we can at least acknowledge it, document it, and we can see how we can address it.
Do we have any playgrounds that we're doing any updating on right now?
Yes, ma'am. So we do have one playground that we're planning to replace this fiscal year. That's George Street.
Okay.
That playground will be replaced. As far as playground updates, we are currently starting sometime in the next week or so, or a couple weeks after we get out of holidays. Filbert Street Park, that playground there, it currently has a sand surface. So we're going to go through and remove the sand, and we're going to install playground mulch at that park. Okay. And then also Barber Street Creative Playground, we are going to be replenishing the mulch there because there's a lot of sand there. So we're going to come in and remove some of the sand and replenish the mulch in that area as well. And then if there's any other playgrounds within the city that we need to replenish mulch, we have a
Is
pretty...
Barber Street mulch the rubber chips?
No, ma'am.
They took those out then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have nothing else. Thank you.
I just have one more question. The skate park, is that, what's going on with that? Is that, I see people using it this week. Is that going to stay or go? Or?
As of right now, we're going to continue to move forward with it being free of charge with no staff. I know I've mentioned about the cameras. With the cameras should be arriving hopefully within the next few weeks, and we can start to get some of those installed within a few of our parks. We're going to install cameras. So we're just waiting on the camera to get here, quite honestly, with that one, and we'll have a camera out there at the skate park.
And about the skate park, actually, I almost forgot. I went by the other night just to check it out. There was nobody there, so I always went to see because the lights were still on, and the office was unlocked. So there's nothing, I guess, really no like switches that really do anything important in there. But that's just something I wanted to bring up to you, that the office was left unlocked.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into that because it shouldn't be left unlocked, and I'll get with staff that has keys. Ms. Chair, if I can say one thing, please.
Yes.
I just want to wish everyone, I failed to do it there in my comments, wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I just wanted to make that known during my comments.
And I also want to thank you. I've been on this committee for many years, and you have done an excellent job. I mean, you get back to us, we get the information. I feel like we know more about what's going on than we did for many years. And so I appreciate the quickness and the thoroughness and the interest that you have. So I just want to thank you very much. It makes our job easier, and you do a very good job.
I don't want to say he has done or he have done. I want to say he is doing.
Yes.
He's doing a great job. So we really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And all you do. And the City of Sebastian staff as well too. So we know it's not a one-man team.
Yeah.
Yep. So we thank you.
Thank you.
And please thank your staff for us too. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. You?
All right. Then we are, the next meeting
There we go.
is going to be, it's on the, if you can read my notes. It's at the very bottom. He said, it's at the bottom. I'm looking through my paper. January 27th would be the next meeting. And is there anything else? Then we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Yes.
We need